StreamYard says it's showtime. It must be showtime. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Falcons Podcast. I put the post out on Twitter. There's a lot of alliteration there. Join us live at 8:35, Falcons Friday Podcast. Yeah, I don't really mean to do that. It just kind of works out that way. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups here real quick and get started as we go on Friday with all the news happening in the last 48 hours about 46 hours since we last saw you. We needed to go on Friday, Nick, and we're good. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is Friday before the preseason game, but that's not the news. The news is, Nick, how you doing, my friend? You doing all right on Friday at 5:30 a.m. West Coast time?
I am doing okay. We're going to have some storms out here this weekend, so I'm excited for that. Hopefully can get a good drenching to help put out some of these wildfires, and getting excited, man. The Falcons are making moves and really acting like a team that's going for it. So what is it exactly? We'll talk about that, and what does this mean for the defense? But yeah, exciting times for Falcons Nation and all those dirty birds.
Yeah, it is. There's a couple of moves that I think, with Justin Simmons being signed, that's something that we've called for since the moment he was released from the Denver Broncos. Y'all know that Nick has covered the Denver Broncos for a long time. I've been doing the Mile High Huddle podcast with them for the last 4 years. There was a need, there was a fit. We talked about it, and we ended the show last week saying on Wednesday saying, well, do you think it'll happen? I'm like, no, my cynical nature is like, no, it makes too much sense. It should happen, but it probably won't. That's just, me being Debbie Downer. Nick was like, I think it's going to happen. It makes too much sense.
I also said Matt Judon. I was like talking about Reddick. I'm like, I think I'd rather have Matt Judon out here, but I don't know. Then I'm like, what should we talk about next? Patrick Mahomes traded to the Falcons or something, But
so yes, lots of good things to talk about. I want to talk to. We're going to get into Nick while we have him because Xfinity is about to do some work in his complex. If Nick freezes up, he ain't coming back. So I want to get to him quick. First thing I want to do though is say hello to a bunch of people that are here early. That's why we go live is for y'all. I want to take care of our supers, but I want to get to Nick. I want to talk about, what does he bring? What does Justin Simmons bring besides the stats? You can see that, but the All-Pro, second team All-Pro, 4 out of the last 5 years, Pro Bowler last year. But what is his style like? How will it mesh with Jesse Bates? Are they interchangeable? Can you move one up in the box? How are they good on tackling? I want to get into all that. First, I want to say hello to some folks. Red Swarm was coming in nice and early with the super chat over on YouTube. He says, good, fantastic Friday morning, Scott, Nick, Anderson, all my friends in the chat. Wow, what a difference 24 hours can make. Yeah, for sure. I want to talk Michael Penix. He's been trending again because of these picks. There's a couple lines of thought where the Falcons went for it, but they didn't use their draft pick to go for it with that. But Nick, I've come around on this one based on what they've been able to do, and I'll tell you why here in a little bit. So thank you, Red Swarm. We appreciate the support. Edward Brown, he says, good morning, Falcons family. Appreciate the support, Edward. He says, haven't been this excited about an upcoming season in a while. If this was poker, Terry Fontenot pushed all his chips in the pot, rise up. Yeah, I can't remember. Some of it's me being older and my priorities have changed. But it's been a while since I've looked forward to an Atlanta Falcons season like this, from a point of view of, hey, let's see what Desmond Ridder can do. This is year 3. But this is different. There's so many intriguing new faces out there. And just, I think the hope around, Falcons Nation it's at a decade high, at least, Nick.
Yeah, probably the highest it's been since, the good vibes heading into that Super Bowl run with Matt Ryan, Kyle Shanahan, all that. But yeah, should be very excited. They've made moves to be aggressive. The offense should be very fun. And now you have some defensive pieces that should really move the needle. I mean, how many would you say this adds about a win and a half to your projection? I'd be curious to see what Vegas says. I mean, typically it's like takes a quarterback to move anything beyond a game, but when you add 2 pieces like this, granted, both on the back end, you're not adding, Myles Garrett to the defensive front, but it should help a lot. So expectations should be high. We always have to see it. There's as you mentioned, so many new faces, and I always come back to that Eagles dream team, right? How are they going to do? And then they kind of fall flat because there's just so many moving parts. You don't know until you see the product on the field, really. New coaching staff, new scheme, new quarterback, blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, expectations should be high, and I'm excited. I'm not even a Falcons fan. I'm excited to watch this team this year. There was points last year, Scott, watching it, it's like, okay, what did Desmond Ridder do? Okay, I'll put it on. This is going to be unfortunate. I have to watch the Iowa Hawkeyes already. Now I have to watch Desmond Ridder do this. No, this should be a lot more enjoyable.
Ridder would have his moments, and then again, he when he would turn the ball over, like we said, there's turnovers and then there's turnovers. He made them count. He was a red zone guy. He was either turning it over in the other team's red zone or in his own red zone, and it was. There were 3rd and 17 at midfields where you throw the ball to the 10 and it gets intercepted, there were none of those. It was always huge. But Edward Brown, thank you for the support, my friend. Appreciate you helping me keep the forehead nice and shiny with the lights on here. Mitchell Angeloni says the defense is going to go crazy, the no-fly zone. We've talked about what can we expect from this defense. I expect a top 10 offense. I do. I expect this to be a top 10 offense with all the resources that have been poured into it. What we had hoped was for an average defense. If you can be in the 15-16 range with a top 10 team, with a top 10 offense, you're going to be really good. You got a chance to make some noise. As far as, overall, I still don't see this as one of the I don't know. Again, I'm cynical. I'll tell you right off the bat. If everybody plays to the top of their game, but Grady Jarrett's coming off an injury, Matthew Judon's coming off an injury, they should be okay, but we'll see. New defensive coordinator. There were a couple holes there before. Second corner, you got some bodies there now. You feel pretty good about it, but AJ Terrell, Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, that's a pretty salty back line. And I've been talking up the interior defensive line all spring and summer. Now you add Matthew Judon, who is a legit defensive end pressure type. Does this go into the 3-4 with him as a stand-up Bud Dupree that we've been talking about, where you're really playing a four-man front with a single edge type, where you're taking Bud Dupree and putting in a better player, a considerably better player now?
I mean, we want to see what Lake and Morris want to do scheme-wise outside of just preseason football still. But, yeah, you added a bona fide true edge. Now, granted, edge rushers, especially coming off injury, there could be some questions there. But you paid
It was a bicep on this one.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, that's one that you should come back from. But still, it's another year older, another ding, niggle, whatever you want to call it. And I think, again, this really should move you. We were talking about what did we expect the Falcons defense when we ended the show last week, or on Wednesday. We're like, if they end better than the bottom 10, it's a positive because we have question mark here. And with how good the offense is going to be, just how the game flow works, teams are going to probably be putting up points with more opportunities and being a little bit more aggressive. Now you add a ball taker away, you add a bona fide edge presence, and that really should have a synergistic effect on, the whole defense. The interior defensive line should be better when you have a Judon in there. You push Ebiketie down a little bit. Harrison's not as out there as much and can play a little bit more of a niche role. So it really should have a good impact. Am I expecting this to be a top 10 defense this year? No, I think you still got questions. Cornerback outside of Terrell. I think even though you added Judon, how many times do we talk about it's about waves and depth? We still have questions about the edges behind there. Some linebacker questions as well, but definitely should finish, middle of the pack, I would expect, in defense. And you pair that with what should be a top 10 offense, and that's a feisty team. That's a formula for winning. Yeah.
That's a dangerous team. Is this team okay? We hope maybe you can go 10-7, win the division, and maybe win a divisional game too. This team on any given day could beat anybody in the playoffs. And if you get hot, let's see. Now, there's not as much pressure on Arnold Ebiketie to become that guy. He's looking like a designated pass rush type. Well, fine. You're going to be in second and long and third and long a lot over the course of a year. Go get your 12 sacks and don't worry about sealing the edge. You got a 270-pound monster to take care of that now in Matthew Judon. This isn't just, again, a designated pass rush type. He's a beast. I mean, he's a big dude. You could go 4 down if you wanted to on this. And Dave throws in, appreciate you, Dave. He says, yeah, Raheem's the key to this. And I think Raheem Morris has helped been the key to some of the recruitment for a lot of these players. You know, the energy he brings, the success he's had as a defensive coordinator, the vision that I think he's been a key to some of the recruitment for these defensive players. And again, Arthur Blank is too. Again, I'll credit Arthur Blank. They say it every time people start slagging on Arthur Blank. Arthur Blank's a good owner. He's not the best owner. He's made his mistakes, but Arthur Blank's a good owner, y'all. He is. We've seen bad. He's a good owner. He's not perfect, but he is a good owner. The city is awesome. There's no reason why people shouldn't come here. That I've said it about the Hawks forever, that the Hawks should be the new Showtime with the entertainment in every area of Atlanta. But it's a great city, good ownership, headed in the right direction. Yes, I'm excited for the Atlanta Falcons. I am, Raheem, Dave, and Raheem is a big.
That's a good point. I mean, just being a player's coach, everybody really likes him. I think stealing the dealer. I think Terry Fontenot as well. And this is a team that you're in the point right now where you've made so many aggressive win now moves that you can add some of these back into the career, you know, chasing success. Like these guys don't sign or give the okay to go to the Falcons unless they are believing the message, the pitch as NFL players who know what that should look like to come here. So that's, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy there. I don't know, but there's belief internally that they're making moves to win now. Otherwise you're not landing these kind of guys.
Want to say hello to Sam, and then let's come back to that with what Benjamin Albright said. So don't let me forget about the players pitching in on these recruitment pitches. Sam Klontz, good to see you. Thank you for the support. He says, wild, Terry did what he wanted. He got Kirk and Penix. And what we wanted, got an edge and a safety. Got to give it up to him. Can I be greedy? What about Stephon Gilmore still out there as a cornerback too? So let's hit on this, and then I'm gonna hit on Ryan too. Ryan, I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit. It's good to see you, Ryan. Ryan is sarcastically saying, man, if only we had gotten Latu at 8 instead of Judon and Simmons, I would much rather have this plan than hoping Latu can do a single thing in the NFL with no quarterback of the future. So the allocation of resources with the quarterback and with the quarterbacks, with spending $100 million on Kirk Cousins and then not backing him, so to speak, in the draft. And this is after free agency, so we don't necessarily know what was going to happen. Usually your big moves are during the free agency window and during the draft. I was very critical of it. I look at it now. There's two sides of this where I could look at it and say, all right, wow, wouldn't a little bit of a trade down and maybe a Terrion Arnold to fill that cornerback 2 spot? Or, you know, where are the holes now? Where could I have gotten that one guy? Who's the one guy now that could fill a need that I might have been able to draft there because I don't count on Penix? That's one side of it, Nick. That's the greedy side. The conservative side of me now, because I am more conservative when it comes to making moves like this and projecting future and stuff, is I don't want to be the New York Jets either. This team, this Atlanta Falcons team, is not one injury away from 13 wins versus 6 wins. They're not. I've said it all along, and I'll keep saying it. This is a playoff team with Michael Penix playing quarterback too. So
yeah, I mean, obviously,
I've changed. I'm come around with the on a long enough timeline. I like the makeup of this team, Nick.
It should be built. I mean, it's always the goal to win from now on, right? It's nice to say that. Obviously, you have to hit on your picks, right? Matt Penix has to end up being a guy for that to happen. But if you took a Dunze there or one of the cornerbacks or something, they also have to hit and be the guy, right? So there's no guarantees if you've gone one way or the other. Maybe Odunze flames out completely. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. Sounds like he's been pretty good with the Bears, but it makes a lot of sense. And you just have so much more flexibility, both in the immediacy and the future. So these are win now moves in free agency and the trade, but the draft still is a long-term building block perspective. And that's okay. You know, like hopefully a lot of these guys are key contributors 2026 and that's fine. That's what good teams tend to do, right? Especially if you're picking a little later. So I'm totally understand it. I get it. I mean, we'll see how you still have to hit on the pick, right? In the end, people would be really making fun of the Packers if, Jordan Love ended up looking like Paxton Lynch, and they wasted a really premium pick when they had Aaron Rodgers there. But now Jordan Love looks amazing. So that's the model there that you're hoping to replicate. But yeah, overall, I mean, got to be exciting. I see a lot of people very, very excited about the defense, saying she'll be top 10 or be an elite defense. Well, we'll see. There's still questions there. Linebacker, the edges besides Judon, maybe I'm biased because I was born in the flames of that 2015 Broncos defense where they had like 4 premium edge rushers and 3 premium cornerbacks. And it's like, well, the more you have, the better. Judon will help a lot. But I would pump the brakes on the top 10 defense expectations personally. But so you upgraded tremendously with some players that bring gravity to the field. So that'll be great.
And as far as the talk here is like, let's focus on 2024. And Carl says, we're talking about this season. So am I. That's my point on this now is so am I. It's like, okay, where could I have been? Would Roma Dunze have helped this team more in 2024 than Michael Penix would in 2024? I don't know that is now set in stone, because this team was set up. If you had gone for it, gone all in on this, you'd set yourself up to be the New York Jets, what they did with Aaron Rodgers. And when Aaron Rodgers went down, they were hosed. They went from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson, and they were hosed. They were one injury away from being done. This team isn't. Knock on wood. I don't want to find out. But I look at the Atlanta Falcons, and there's not a one player away where this team goes from 12 wins to 6 wins because one player goes out. There's not. That makes me feel better. So I am talking about this year. I am. And how, maybe that draft pick for this season was used well like I said, on a long enough timeline when these moves come to fruition 2 weeks before the season. Remember, we're also talking about April and May here. So yes, I've come around on this. The conservative nature on me has. So want to go back to the top and say hello to some folks that came in nice and early. He says, John Harrell says, good morning, Scott and the Falcons family. Just when we thought the Falcons were going to do nothing, bam, now the Penix pick looks brilliant. And again, you're not a Kirk Cousins Achilles away from your season going down the freaking drain. This team can still be pretty good. And John follows up real quick. He says, can we restructure enough contracts to give multiple years for both players? Justin Simmons, who is on a 1-year deal, $8 million. Nick, I'd been saying 7 all summer was what I thought he would sign for. And then I think I went to 9 based on, okay, he's getting a little bit of a bidding war going now, and we're getting a little desperate from some players. So right in between there, 7 or 8. It's about right for the market for safeties now, but he says he's not a fan of 1-year deals. John, I'm not against 1-year deals when that's what the player signs. When it's the last year of, okay, you've got 3 years of guaranteed money and your 4th year is non-guaranteed, which is what Matthew Judon's on right now. He's on a 1-year deal, non-guaranteed money. He's not feeling real great about that. Justin Simmons feels just fine. He just signed that deal. So I'm okay with that. But the short answer to your question, Nick, is yes, there's plenty of money to be had to re-sign these guys next year if you want to. They're in their 30s. If you want to, there's plenty of money to be had.
Yeah. And I do see a comment here from, where is it at? Carl Thomas, which said the Falcons had the 11th best defense last year. Depends on what you're looking at. I know, Scott, you know that I'm a metric head, and I like to look at a lot of metrics that a lot of people that I respect in the industry or even on teams utilize. So Falcons last year, EPA per play, 12th. Obviously, the deep run defense was a huge part of that. I think they had the highest ranked run defense in EPA per play in the NFL. They did, just confirming that. So that helped a lot. Their DVOA, though, was 24th, which utilizes game situations and the opponents they were playing. So Scott and I both believe that last year they outplayed their talent, and you have a lot of changes there on the defensive side of the ball. The other aspect, and Scott, we talked about this probably 2 weeks ago, is that it's kind of again, not to everyone drink. Nick brings up the Iowa Hawkeyes, but it was an Iowa Hawkeye situation where teams didn't really have to put the pedal to the metal offensively all the time because they could coast, so to speak, play ball control and not have to be as aggressive on offense to put up points because there was very little respect for the Falcons' ability to put up points and protect the football.
You could game manage. You could game manage and wait for a mistake.
Especially in the NFL. They do that there's no style points like you have in college. So I think there's a really strong possibility that what was it, 12th, and they're probably using points per game given up.
It was in total yards because they slow the game down and stuff. It was 18th in points per game. So
okay, I would value yards even less.
You're not looking at it, and use the seat of your pants, y'all. Did you watch the Atlanta Falcons defense last year and feel like you saw a top 10 defense or close? No. You didn't. There were times where there were some big plays and they did some things really well. But then there were times when they're giving up 30-something to Josh Dobbs and Kyler Murray coming up and Will Levis is torching them. So there were holes to be filled. There was lots of room for improvement. And frankly, then you lose a couple guys too, who you've now since replaced, which is good. So
my point,
I'm not looking for a top 10 defense. If you get one, great,
fantastic.
That's not what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting a top 10 defense.
But my point was, you could be worse this year in giving up points per game. You could be a little slightly worse this year in especially yards per game, and be a better defense. Still, because everything is connected to a certain extent. There's a reason that like every defense in the Big 12 is like, oh, they play 7 top 10 defenses this year. Well, the offenses stink. Like there's a little bit of I can't think of what type of bias is built into that. My epidemiology brain failing me at 5:59 a.m. here. But we got Troy coming in here. I really think you should just keep adding more dogs to the picture here, Troy. Just Photoshop it and eventually just overlapping there. Happy for Simmons. Happy if you two have a playoff team to talk about all season. Be the first time in my covering since 2016, Scott, that I'd cover a team going to the playoffs. So that would be great. I would really like that.
Troy, good to see you. Troy is a Denver Broncos fan. Atlanta Falcons fans, we talked about the fit that Justin Simmons is. Justin Simmons is Calais Campbell if Calais Campbell had stayed with one team for the last 8 years, if you'd gotten him from there. When the Falcons go back to Denver, you're going to see a reception. When Justin Simmons comes out there, there's not going to be any hate. It's going to be all love. Justin Simmons is a terrific human being. He's humanitarian. He's been I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I feel like he's been their Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee a couple of times out in Denver. Yeah. Great leader, and he's a hell of a football player. And what does he bring as far as his size? Because he's a big dude. He's rangy. Long. He's a solid tackler in the open field, and he's got a nose for the ball. How does he fit into this defense next to Jesse Bates?
He's played a lot of different defensive styles. Been listed at strong safety, free safety. Really, he's ideal in a more too high safety defense, or one that uses a lot of disguising there, where post snap you buzz a safety down, the Vic Fangio kind of stuff out there. So yeah, join us or die. But yeah, there are sometimes some questions about the open field tackling here or there, but again, he's a safety. There's a few plays. I mean, low light I'll never forget of his career is Sam Darnold juking him in the open field in a Thursday night Jets game. But that, you play long enough in the open field, stuff like that's going to happen. But he's a really good player. He's smart, and he's going to bring leadership and turnovers to this defense. So he's been great for a long time. It's really surprising he's only been an All-Pro twice, considering he's just blowing everybody away in terms of the takeaways. Maybe that has to do with just how dreadful Denver has been around him. Because, if you are a safety, you are pretty dependent on everybody executing in front of you to a high level to make the most of your job. Like, is Ed Reed without Suggs and Ray Lewis? He's still fantastic, but you got to have those opportunities with those defensive front players making it for you. So, yeah, he's great. You're going to love him too. He's so well-spoken, intelligent. I would vote for him, right? He's one of those kind of guys. Is I really believe that he has great character and is intelligent as well. So, I mean, him and Bates going to be a hell of a pairing for the Falcons.
Couple of comments here back to back. I'm going to roll into them. A couple of supers. Thank you. Thank you guys. Brandon Yowler, appreciate you. He says, good morning, guys. With two dangerous safeties and a quarterback and an edge, do you think this is about to shape up defense to be contenders? And We Sound Strange follows up. He says, are we Super Bowl contenders now? Any other moves? There will always be moves. There will always be moves. And We Sound Strange, thank you so much. And Brandon, thank you. There's a story on the front page of Falcons SI we led with today about them talking. They're working out a former running back from Ohio State. So there's constantly going to be moves. Now, will there be another move that moves the needle like these two guys? No. When we started talking about, we can go way back. The first time I put Justin Simmons on the cover of one of our shows, I looked it up, was May 1st. And I said, I do not think the starting safety for this team is on the team yet. I don't have the faith in Richie Grant. DeMarco Hellams, the sample size is too small, and he was okay. It's an exciting player for a rookie, but he wasn't like, oh wow, that's the guy. And we've seen 3 years of Richie Grant be poor. They needed to make this move. It made too much sense. So awesome. But do you think the defense is going to, shape the defense to be contenders? Yeah. Yes. If everything comes together, and there's a lot of that, this hasn't changed the fact that I expect this offense to be a top 10 offense. Think of the resources that have been poured into it. You go across I'm going to go from wide receiver, and then I'm going to circle back around to running back. First round pick, $22 million. There's Mooney. Get to the offensive line, first round pick, second round pick, center's fourth round pick, Chris Lindstrom, first round pick, right tackle, first round pick, tight end, first round pick, running back, first round pick, quarterback, $100 million guaranteed. Yeah. I mean, come on. That's it. Yes, I expect the top 10 offense out of that kind of investment, Nick.
Yeah, me too. Again, it could be one of those things that it takes, 4 games or so to really get going. But with the investment in the offensive line, Cousins pulling the strings, and just the weaponry you have.
And the only young player in there is the running back who's a hit the ground running type. They can play in the NFL at 20.
Yeah. Dahlman rookie contract too, but that's Pitt's still rookie contract. Pitts is still young too, right? That's another
23
one. Reality. But it should be exciting.
And 23. He turned 21, he turned 22, he turned 20. He's about to turn 24, so he's still 23 years old.
Yeah. Crazy. And just looking at the Super Bowl odds, the Falcons, I believe, are, let me count it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in Super Bowl odds, and also 6th in the conference odds. I don't think that this would rocket them, in my perspective, up to the Eagles, 49ers, and Lions. I think those teams probably still just slightly higher in my perception of them. Now, granted, we haven't even played a game yet, so that could look foolish here really fast, but just for where I see them right now. But then you have also the Packers and the Cowboys ahead of them at 18-1 Super Bowl odds, and plus 800 for the Packers to win the conference, plus 850 for the Cowboys, where then you have the Falcons at 25-1 for a Super Bowl and 11-1. I would maybe sprinkle some cash on the Falcons there, because I think they should be right there with the Cowboys and the Packers after this. Now, I don't know, maybe Vegas has taken the Falcons off the market here. Like sometimes when moves like this happen, all of a sudden you can't bet on them anymore. Right. I don't know that. I'm not
until the odds update for sure.
Yes, exactly. So, but I think they should be right there with the Packers and the Cowboys now. And those are two, talented teams that have, made the playoffs and have a little bit more consistency on what they are right now. Continuity, the word I was looking for. So, but good team.
If you're in the conversation, you're in contention.
Yeah.
Now, am I saying favorites? No. I think I go 49ers and Lions. I think they're head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC.
And not the Eagles?
The Eagles are, I don't know what's going to happen with the Eagles,
Hurts
man.
is so volatile. Hurts is volatile.
I don't know what I they're not the Lions and 49ers right now. They could.
They're tied with the Lions in terms of Vegas perspective.
I disagree.
I'm with you.
I just think, what'd they lose? 6 out of 7 to finish the season last year. Halloween, they look like the best team in the NFL. New Year's Day, they look like pumpkins. So I'm not there on the Eagles because there's too much uncertainty there for me. But are the Falcons are they in contention? Are they contenders? Yeah, they are. Are they favorites? No. But this should be a team I think should be in the final 8. Could be there instead of, okay, let's eke in as one of the 7th worst team in the playoffs and get blown out, which is where they've been the last years. Oh, we're 1 game out of playoff contention. You stink. They were 4-6 and 1 game out of playoffs. I don't care. You stink. We know bad football. This is bad football. This team should be good. And if they're playing right at the right time, yeah, they're contenders. Would I pick them? No, I'll never pick the Falcons, but they should be good. They should be good. Rusty. Good Rusty coming in yellow. Appreciate you, Rusty. He says, Scott and Nick, what up, G's? Judon and Simmons is lit, but that also means that Arnold Ebiketie and Richie Grant are not developing, and both were traded up for in the 2nd round. Falcons can't seem to draft and develop as of late. Let's go, though. Grant was actually traded down. We've come full circle on this. This is the synergy we've talked about. The Falcons traded down in the 2nd when they drafted Richie Grant. Who did they trade with when they traded down in the 2nd round? Nick?
Broncos.
The Denver Broncos. They traded with the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos traded up, sent them a 4th round pick. The Broncos drafted running back Javonte Williams, who's been hit and miss because of injury. Richie Grant has been kind of a miss. The best player, I think, out of that bunch, the most reliable right now, has been the 4th round pick that was thrown in, which was Drew Dahlman. AK, I think, has been fine. For a 2nd round edge, he's been okay. He hasn't been phenomenal, but you're not expecting, I don't want to play a whataboutism. Well, what about this guy? I know. What about? Well, hell, Matthew Judon was a 5th round pick. I know. Those are the exceptions. When we talk about expectations, I'm leaning heavily towards probability. The probability is a 2nd round edge isn't going to be a Pro Bowl player. I think he's been okay. He's been okay for what you get what you could expect in the 2nd round. Grant's been a problem because a 2nd round pick on a safety is a premium pick, is a high pick. That's about as high as you'll ever take a safety for a non-premium position, and he's been a big disappointment. I'm not disappointed with Arnold Ebiketie. And frankly, Nick, I feel like maybe it's the scout in me. I feel like development is overrated. These guys either can play or they can't, and it's your job as a coach to put them in positions where they can succeed. And if they don't have it, they don't have it. I don't know that you put it into them. We develop them. Most guys don't get the time to develop because they're not good enough and they're gone. The only reason they're around is because they're on rookie contracts and they're cheap. So we'll see, Rusty. But
I think it depends on the position a lot as well and where you go.
Yes, of course.
Player. Yeah,
but overall.
Yeah. Does a running back develop as much as an offensive tackle, right? Especially with how they're coming in, the coaching they get. Some guys are born, some guys are made.
Yeah, and you get better. There's incremental improvements. Obviously, they get better, they improve. But is that because that's just natural? You're getting, or is that because you do it better than somebody else? If this guy had been put here, if I got a wide receiver in a Kyle Shanahan offense, he's probably going to be better than if he's playing for Arthur Smith. Okay. But does that mean that he was developed that way? Are these guys so much better? There's different conversation. Let's talk about other things. Like Archangel coming in, he says, morning, beam me up, Scotty, Nick, top of the morning. Who is the biggest winner on this Falcons team from these new additions in your mind? Ark, that's a hell of a question. How about Raheem Morris? How about Falcons fans? Falcons fans are the biggest winner. The biggest winner. AJ? How about AJ Terrell coming into a contract year?
Yeah.
How about AJ? I wrote it up a little bit yesterday. David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett should not see double teams every single time if they're lined up next to Matthew Judon. They shouldn't. The linebackers should be cleaner than when you've got 270-pound of a guy, of an edge rusher defensive end up there eating up blocks. The pass rush will be better, which will benefit the backside, which again comes back to AJ Terrell.
Mhm. I think Bates as well. Just more opportunities. Not going to have to cover as much ground. Can be a little bit more aggressive with the football in theory as well. So some more opportunities to take the ball away and make plays after taking the ball away in theory. And I think you got to say Terry Fontenot's a winner here too, right? Big winner. Adds a
Yep.
little bit of expectation. It's double-edged sword, right? Adds expectation, but also adds talent to a team. Entering year 4 of the general manager here. I mean, it's time to get those wheels spinning and trajectory here, and by all means, that's what it looks like in out there in Atlanta.
Overall, though, Archangel, as far as the question goes, who is the biggest winner on the Falcons team from these new additions? AJ. I'm going to go AJ Terrell. Or Grady Jarrett. Having this much extra time, because Grady Jarrett has toiled away. I've got the clip bookmarked because I just love it. Damn, y'all don't have anybody else to block as he's taken on a triple team in 2022. No, we don't. It's you, dude. Well, now you put 2 guys on Onyemata and or Jarrett all the time, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble. There's other guys out there that can hurt you. We haven't even talked about Zach Harrison and Taquan Graham on the other side. But I think it helps again, we've talked about synergy and how everything's connected. Matthew Judon helps a guy next to him. Grady Jarrett or Onyemata, depending on where they're lined up. He helps the linebackers right behind him because he'll help keep them clean because he's a beast. He's 270 pounds. So in the running game, he's going to help keep them clean because if you let him go, he's going to wreck the play. So Anderson, Landman, Ellis all benefit from that move. And then on the backside, you get an extra half a breath of coverage with Bates and Simmons back there, which is going to be, and now you've got a better pass rush. Everybody gets better. Biggest winner, AJ Terrell. He's the one that's up for the money.
I'll go with Falcons fans, honestly, but that's the big one there. I mean, expectations are high. It should be exciting and good football. Now, again, you didn't add Myles Garrett and Ed Reed to the defense, 2 names talked about earlier, but guys that are on the back end that are looking to contend that should make meaningful impact on the defense and in the locker room too. I mean, you talk about a defense that's pretty young overall. You add some guys who have been there and had real success in the league, individual success, unfortunately for Simmons, only because Denver's been so dreadful. But defense should be a lot better. You shored up some of the biggest questions. I mean, there's still questions, the edge depth, the cornerback opposite Terrell, what are the linebackers going to do? But I mean, just adding star players, you hope that they have enough weight to them to overcome some of those questions.
XDG Delta says, do you think Atlanta will restructure another contract to go get a wide receiver 3, or do you think we'll stick with Ray? I don't think those are mutually exclusive. Okay. That said, no, I do not think the Falcons will make an internal move like that in order to go get a splash wide receiver. I think they're done on offense. Will you try and sign a guy like James Washington? Maybe. Are you going to go get in the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes? No, I don't think so. You've invested enough there that you will try and, it sucks at Rondale Moore that got hurt, but Casey Washington has been playing pretty well to give competition to Ray. Ray is a good option as when you start counting the options in this offense. Bijan Robinson's number 1. You go Drake London. You go Kyle Pitts. I'll go Tyler Algier. I'll go Darnell Mooney. We're talking about, at best, your 6th option for your wide receiver 3. No, I don't think the Falcons will make a move in order to go after a wide receiver 3. To make a move, they'll always try and upgrade that spot. So make sure I'm clear on this. But they're not going to say, okay, we need to restructure Jake Matthews again in order to sign this wide receiver. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and just the wide receiver market's crazy. Just what these guys are getting paid. They're up there with edge rushers and defensive tackles right now, maybe even surpass some of them. So that's a position that you're probably going to roll with it. You're going to hope that your wide receiver 3 is Mooney, with Pitts being the wide receiver 2 out there, and hopefully using Robinson enough in the pass game that you can overcome, the on paper wide receiver 2 and 3, with Mooney being, I think he's good. I don't think he's a high end wide receiver 2, but he can be good. But when you have Robinson and Pitts, that's okay. Should be okay. Chris comes in and says, do these additions change your perspective on opening 4 or 5 game slate? I mean, it changes perspective on the entire season. So yes, we talked about how it could be rough. There's still going to be some work getting the offense working because it's so coordinated with Kirk Cousins, the coming off of the knee injury and a new offensive coordinator. There's going to be a feeling out process still. But when you have playmakers on defense, one big turnover, one short field could change the game completely. So it changes the perspective on the opening 5 or 4 or 5 games, just like it does change the perspective on the entire season. What the Falcons at 9.5 right now, over under for Vegas win total. I think 10.5 would be the line I would set after these moves.
Yeah, and Chris, the answer for me is yes, it does. We talked about this team could start off 1-3 and still win 11 games. I think they're only is it 2 games? We just looked it up. I think there's only 1 game that they're not favored in right now, and that was against the Chiefs. I think, or on the road to. I just had the schedule up. At Eagles, they're not going to be favored, and the Chiefs at home is going to be tight. Yes, I had mentally prepared myself for a 1-4, 2-3 type start, and I'm going to come on here and say, y'all relax. We've been telling you this is going to happen. I'd like to see 3-2 now. At worst, I'd like to see 3-2. Is this team now good enough that you can lean on the defense? Do we say the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense? Yes, you can lean on this defense while Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson / Justin Fields are trying to figure out what they want to do. Their passing game last year was absolutely god-awful. How much is that going to improve in game 1? Yes, beat the Steelers. I had kind of chalked that up in my mind as an L. You never beat the Steelers. They should be a little bit farther ahead of what they're trying to do. I look at this now and say, yeah, get a win against the Steelers. At Eagles, if you drop that one because you're not sure what you're going to get out of the Eagles, okay. Chiefs at home, that's going to be a 2-point game when you look at the spread. Saints at home and Buccaneers at home. Take care of business. Take care of business there. So at worst, yes, Chris, a great question. Thank you for the stars. I want to see at least 3-2 out of to start the season. Am I going to panic if not? No. Same reason. Back into this schedule, there's going to be plenty of time to get right. They're talking about doing away with preseason games altogether. So you play an 18-game season, the first 2 or 3 games. I'm not going to worry about, no team that started 0-2 has ever done this or this and this. They're playing 18 games now. Soon. I think they're going to do away with the preseason here in the next couple of years. But yes, it does. I'd like to see 3-2.
Yeah, and where
as
you
a
at
floor,
on the...
I'd like to see 5-0.
Yeah, heck, 6-0 in the first week. But as Michael's question, a squad on paper plays to potential, we could easily get 12 wins. I mean, yeah, of course, 12 wins is possible. This could be a team where, 13 wins is possible. But where would you set the Vegas over under now? Are you feeling the 10.5 too? Is that?
Yeah, because I thought the 9.5 was fair. 10.5 is definitely fair.
Yeah.
It feels like it should honestly be about the same because it's the Falcons, man. If it's going to go bad, it's going to go really bad. And they're going to win 6 games again, 7 games again. But again, I go back to the fact, getting back to, coming full circle on how the quarterback position was allocated. We always talk about, butt injuries. Yes, butt injuries. Can this team win 10 games with Michael Penix at quarterback? Yes, they can. I firmly believe they can. Can they win 11 or 12? Maybe. But this team is not. And again, I don't want to find out, knock on wood. I don't want to find out. But this team is not the New York Jets. They're not one injury away from their season going down the drain on the second snap of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Leroy says he sees him going 10-5. Well, what about the last 2 weeks, Leroy? After that, but
the 10-5 start, and then you finish at Washington, and then you've got the Panthers at home. The Falcons haven't been able to beat. You talk about a bad team that's had your number. It's 3 or 4 in a row to the freaking Commanders. There's fireable offense right there. For the Commanders have been a train wreck. Beat the Falcons every year. So the last 2 games at Washington and then Panthers at home. Panthers should be in full tank mode by then. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. I'm excited to watch this team, Scott. These are 2 moves. We've kind of been, we're not like unique in being like, yeah, Justin Simmons out there, he would be great to add to this team. Oh, the edge rusher room looks really concerning. I mean, guess what, folks? You added Judon. He's 32 years old. We're still going to be banging the edge rusher gavel in the offseason.
1 year contracts. Yeah.
Yeah.
1 year contracts. Still need edge.
Yep.
Still need safety. Still need corner. You still need everything. You might need tackle.
Wide receiver.
Caleb McGarry. We were talking about here real quick at the start of the show. And we got to whip Dan Quinn and Arthur Smith. Lots of fun storylines. Start of the show, John Harrell asks, might take me a second to scroll back up here, about restructuring some deals. Some of that comes down to who might be here and who might not be next year. But looking at what you do when you talk about restructuring, now there's high contracts with young guys mean veterans, mean I can do like I did with Chris Lindstrom, okay? Let's say Chris Lindstrom he's expected to get $20 million this year, and he has a $20 million cap hit. If he's got 3 years left on his deal, I can give him an extension and make it a 5-year deal, and I pay him a $20 million signing bonus with a $1 million salary. He just got $21 million in cash. Extend his deal a couple of years, that drops his salary, his cap hit from 20 down to like 6. So that's one way to do it. You do that for too long, though, and you end up with Matt Ryan. You end up with the Saints. You end up with Jake Matthews, with Julio Jones, declining players, with Deion Jones, declining players with huge dead cap hits. Now you can't extend them because you're trying to get out from under their contracts. But next year, Jake Matthews is 21-12. You're done being underwater on that contract. $21 million, $12.5 million dead cap. That means there's $9 million delta there. There's a candidate for either a restructure or you move on. Grady Jarrett is 20-4. There's $16 million in potential savings. Jesse Bates is 18.5 and 9. There's $10 million. Caleb McGarry, ding, 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 16.5 on 2. Caleb McGarry ain't playing on that contract next year. He will either be restructured, extended, or moved on from, depending on how this season goes. David Onyemata is 14-4. What did I just go through right there? $50 million. AJ Terrell, what's he on this year? Because you can actually lower his cap hit with a why is he so far? Where the hell is AJ Terrell? He's higher than that because he's playing on a 5th-year deal. Terry Fontenot, Control F. And I don't even see, Terrell's not listed here yet. So Terrell's Terrell's cap number, even with a big extension, shouldn't be that high because you can lower the initial cap hit based on the extra years on the deal. So he will come into AJ Terrell, hopefully plays to the type of level where you want to give him a big deal, but his first year shouldn't be that high, shouldn't be that big of a hit. Great questions, great discussions. Nick, any last words before we get out of here?
I was just going to say I got a text from Xfinity saying expect outage in 5 minutes. So it's time. Exciting moves. Let's keep manifesting greatness. Have a great weekend, everyone. Excited to watch this Falcons team. Obviously, a lot of new faces and moving parts. So, you know me, maybe I'm a stick in the mud, but let's let it play out a little bit. It's not a Super Bowl or bust season. Just enjoy the ride and the expectations, and we'll see how it plays out this season. But there's definitely reason to be optimistic and excited in Falcons Nation for the first time, like legitimately the first time in a while. And I'm excited to be along for the ride and continue to do these shows with you, Scott.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. September 8th. Do we see some of the starters this week in the preseason? Maybe. I guarantee who we're not going to see is Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon.
Yeah.
Maybe we see some of the starters this week after not having the joint practices. We'll see, and then get some back end of the roster as we roll towards. I don't want to go too fast. Time's already going too fast. My kids are going to be out of my house here soon. I swear to God, I already got a sophomore in high school. I don't want things to go too fast, but I am looking forward. I almost called it the Georgia Dome. The Benz should be lit against the Steelers on September 8th. That's going to be fun. Looking forward to having fun with y'all. Nick and I will be back on Monday. We'll talk about some of the things we've seen, some of the reactions, et cetera, et cetera. Follow all the action, falconsi.com. We're pumping out articles and everything there. Appreciate everybody for being here today. We had almost 400 people watching this morning. So thank you so much. And I want to give a special shout out to our super chat superstars who came in and helped keep the lights on, even if Nick's about to lose his internet. That's not your fault. That's not your fault. Red Swarm, thank you so much. Edward Brown, we got Mitchell coming in. Sam, Troy coming in from the Broncos. We got a Justin Simmons fan here supporting the show. And there's a lot of reasons to be a Justin Simmons fan. I'm a Justin Simmons fan because he is that guy. He's a guy you want to root for. He's a guy you want your son to grow up to become. I mean, he is that type of guy. I do not say that lightly. So Troy, thank you for being here. Brandon, appreciate you. We Sound Strange, always good to see you. Rusty, one of the OGs, supporting the show for a long time. Archangel, usually a comment about my shiny forehead, and I love you for it. XDG Delta, so thank you so much. And Chris Williams over on Facebook. If I missed you, I apologize. Thank you for being here. As Dave says, hit that like button and the subscribe and share. It helps us out a ton. We will see you on Monday at 8:35 Eastern Time. Have a great Falcons Friday and weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Peace.